As the King of Spain recently said in his Christmas address to the Spanish people, we have had 40 years of democracy right now in Spain, almost 40 years. We will be celebrating 40 years of democracy when we approve our constitution in 1978 on the 6th of December. So it will be 40 years next year on the 6th of December. These are by far the most successful, stable and prosperous years in Spanish history, in all regions of Spain. You cannot compare with any other 40 years. And when we entered the European Union in 1986, it became even more stable and more prosperous. We have always been, we are, and we will always be, I'm sure, in the front line of the European integration process. We are a positive force for the European integration process, and that's the way we want it to be in the next future. And I think that after we have gone through the worst economic and financial crisis like many other countries in Europe, now we're growing fast, we are growing healthily, we are creating employment, and that gives us a new impetus, a new force, new authority to take this process further. The European integration process, which is at the center of the Spanish interests. The important thing about these elections is that legality, constitutional order, democracy has been restored, and self-government has been restored, a self-government that was destroyed by the previous Catalan government. So now we're back into stable, legally certain and democratic framework. So whatever government comes out of this election needs to know that the legal framework is there. But it is there because it is the basis of their own self-government, and it is the basis of the rights and freedom that we enjoy since 1978. This has been by far the most serious constitutional crisis, but it has been reestablished. The constitutional order, which is the basis of our rights and freedoms after 40 years of dictatorship, they have been restored. So now everybody can move in a stable, legally certain atmosphere and framework. So if somebody is not comfortable with the current situation, constitutional situation, the Constitution itself provides ways and means to change it, but you have to follow the democratic ways to change it. 91% of the Catalan population approved the Constitution in 1978. They approved ways and means to change the Constitution. So if you have enough support, you have to conduct political dialogue with the other forces, with the other Catalan political forces. Don't forget that more than 53% of the Catalan population voted for non-independentist parties. So if you don't have enough support, you have to speak to us and try to reach a compromise within the democratic framework. And the democratic framework is there and has been there since 1978, and then when the Catalan Statute of Autonomy was approved. What you cannot do, and I think this is a very important lesson of this constitutional crisis, is that when you don't have enough support, then you just jump over the law. This is not democratic. I think political dialogue is important. Political dialogue doesn't mean that I want something and then I present the other part with yes or yes, like you say, self-determination of self-determination, or independence or independence, which was the basis of the problem here. There are ways and means established for political dialogue, but you need enough support. I mean, if your own Statute of Autonomy says that to change it you need 2/3 to start changing it, you need 2/3 of the regional parliament. If you don't have enough support, you have to speak to the others and reach an agreement and a compromise. Democracy is about political dialogue and compromise, and the doors are wide open. If we want to change the financial settlement, inter-regional financial settlement, there are ways and means The government of Catalonia has been invited to a commission to try and change for the better the financial settlement. They have to go there. If they don't go, we cannot engage in any political dialogue. There has always been a particular Mediterranean or southern European countries cooperation in many different issues, immigration or relations with the north of Africa or many other issues. So it is not new. What is new probably is that we, thanks to the initiative of the Greek government, we turned that into a summit of heads of state and government. So that's the first evolution, and I think it's very positive evolution. Now we have a regular occurrence of this Southern European heads of state and government summit. This is good. This allows us to coordinate in some very important things. We have different countries, different sizes, different governments of different signs, but we have common interest, and that's the issue. That's the issue. More than the name, the thing is that we have many common interests, and we have to defend them. We have to coordinate them together, and that's the message we want to send, and that's the action we want to undertake. We tend to cooperate in things that bind us together, like problems. We have common problems and then common interest. One of the most pressing ones now is immigration. All our countries are external frontier of the European Union, and immigration and refugees come from the other side of the Mediterranean. So whether we are called Mediterranean or southern countries, we have a common interest in tackling this immigration issue together, because we are defending the whole European border. Defending, and we have to try and tackle it together to manage the immigration flows together. And we have experience in that, especially in countries like Spain, but also others. Greece, for instance, has had the largest flow of refugees since World War II. So we have experience that we can put together, and we have interest that we have to coordinate to defend our interest and the interest of the European Union with countries that are defending the border. Youth unemployment is also an issue in some of our countries, like Spain, like Greece, in a lesser way probably in Italy and some other countries. That's also a very important issue in which we want to coordinate. We can share experiences and we can defend interests together in the European Union. The European Union, your interest in a European Union of 28 or 27, your interests have to be coordinated with others, otherwise you cannot be successful. Southern European countries or Mediterranean countries in the EU, we are all on the front line of the immigration and refugee issues. So we are tackling directly a common interest in the European Union, which is defending the external border, managing reasonably immigration flows, and receiving, in some cases, refugees. So we have to do this together, but we are defending a European Union interest. That's why when I say burden sharing, I say that we don't have to cover all the costs of that. There is a human cost involved, there is a political cost involved, and there is a financial cost involved. So if we are defending the European Union external border, I think there has to be financial instruments in the European Union to help us do that, and to finance very expensive operations we're doing about that. And there has to be financial instruments to help the countries of transit. I'm thinking, for instance, in the countries of Northern Africa. This has to be a European instrument, and we have to help countries of origin. We have to help countries of origin to develop. We have to create opportunities for their youth, for employment for their youth, And this requires European Union instruments too. Something we share in Southern European countries is that we are pro-European integration. There is no Euroscepticism in any of the governments of these countries. We have countries like Malta, for instance, that has neutrality status, which make it difficult for this country to participate in PESCO. That's okay. But in common, we have this pro-European drive. So we can use that to further promote defense in Europe. There are countries like Spain, or France, or Italy are in the front line of this effort, along with Greece, I suppose, and we are going to work together to make the European defense pillar stronger, because we need it now in the new international circumstances. First of all, I must say that we have gone through probably 2 or 3 of the worst crises in the European integration process: the economic and financial crisis, the refugee crisis, immigration crisis, and terrorism. Now, after so many years of economic crisis, now we're seeing sunlight again. It's the first time in the last 10 years that all European Union countries will grow, that we will create net employment. So we must take advantage of that to create, to build. We have been spending all our efforts and sacrifices of the citizens of the European Union to try and avoid the European integration process from collapsing, Schengen or the Economic and Monetary Union. We have learned lessons. We must use these lessons to build now. We must use these lessons to rebuild what was wrong with the system we had before. And there are lessons to be learned and things to be reformed in the European Monetary Union. We have done a lot already, but we have to continue doing so. We must concentrate on finishing with the banking union. That's indispensable. That was one of the worst crises we had, and one of the most important lessons we have learned, that banking union is a necessity in a European monetary union. And then we have to go on with fiscal integration. That's for the medium term. We would need in the long term a Ministry of Finance, budget, and some sort of common financing for common projects to begin with, but also to compensate for asymmetric crisis in the European Union.